A bibbity bobbity boo. Do you see what I just did there? It's a bit of dare I say, magic. Hello everybody, Z899 here and welcome to NRL Tips and Predictions round 10 of the 2023 NRL season. And yes, of course, it is that one round where all the games are in one location. It is Magic Round. Let's just not dilly-dally and let's just get right into it. Kicking off on Friday at 6 p.m, we'll have the Canterbury Bulldogs up against the Canberra Raiders. Now, both teams are coming off very close wins from last week. The Canberra Raiders got a golden point victory over the Dolphins, whilst the Bulldogs had a very close game against the St George Illawarra Dragons, which a lot of people said the Bulldogs were playing the rest. But an interesting factor that it's got to be brought in, because I was doing a little bit of research going into Magic Round for this, is the Bulldogs and the Dragons are the only two teams who have not won at Magic Round at all. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to say it's like, oh, that's going to be the reason why that Canberra are going to win. But it's a tough game to kind of predict, because in an essence, you got to like try to question. It's like, do you think Canberra is better than St George? I do think yes, though. It is a hard game to predict. Bulldogs have been okay, but I think it's because the Raiders did just get a win against a team that is in the top 8. I might just have to edge it out and say Canberra will get the win, and I think that yes, the Bulldogs are not winning at Magic Round will continue for the 4th year running. I just had to do the maths in my head, but yeah, I do think that Canberra should be able to take the win. Now we go to the final game on Friday, and it's the game that is pretty much always played at Magic Round. It is the Manly Sea Eagles up against the Brisbane Broncos, because heaven forbid make it a Brisbane home game, because as we all know, it's definitely not like it's in Brisbane. Well, it's in Logan, technically, if we're being specific. And I know there is a big rivalry between Brisbane and Logan. But obviously, this originally, I think, should have been first versus second if Manly were able to get the win against the Titans last week, and whoever won this match would go top of the table. Now, it's 6 versus first. And I do think Manly, I don't know, it's like looking into that Titans game, Titans just really just had Manly's number in that match. Obviously, Brisbane also did suffer a sizable loss against South Sydney. It's starting to kind of unravel them a little bit. So it's another one of these games where there's not really a lot to actually read from. But I'm probably going to play it safe because there is a bit of a sizable gap in the betting market. I will say that the Broncos are going to win. Like, again, wouldn't be shocked if Manly does it, but I don't know. I guess Brisbane should be fine, but I don't know. It's going to be one of those games where it's like, it's eeny, meeny, miny, mo, even though the market suggests otherwise. So we move on to Magic Round Saturday, and I've got to say, this is a stacked Magic Round Saturday. Like, this is all 3 games are belters. So starting at 3 p.m, you have the New Zealand Warriors up against the Penrith Panthers. Now, Warriors are going very good. They're still in the 8th. They did suffer a 14-0 loss against the Roosters, but the weather was absolutely horrible. And speaking of results in horrible weather, the Penrith Panthers lost to the West Tigers down technically in Bathurst. And it's just kind of putting a microscope onto this Panthers team about they just don't really want it, in my opinion. It's like they haven't been playing that greatly so far this season. They didn't play great against the Knights, but they were still able to get a result, which shows that, yes, they are still a very good team, because even when they play badly, they can still win. But I think for this game, I have gone a bit favourable and tipped the Warriors over the last couple of weeks, and some of them have blown up in my face. But what I will say is that I do think that the Penrith Panthers should win this game. If they don't win this game, they will drop out of the 8, I think. But yeah, that will be, it's like, okay, there is something wrong. Now we go on to the second game on Saturday, and you've got the Cronulla Sharks up against the Redcliffe Dolphins. Now, Sharks are second place. I mean, the Sharks are going very, very swimmingly at the moment with a big win against the North Queensland Cowboys to start the round, and the Dolphins, sort of bad start in the first half, made their comeback and were ahead, and then the Raiders made a late surge and then lost in Golden Point. This, I think, might actually be the match of the whole whole day, in complete honesty. But just looking into it and like how the Sharks team is just like cool, calm, collected, fundamentals are all set, I do think that the Sharks should win. Yes, it is at Suncorp, so the Dolphins could have a bit of an interesting effect on it, but I think they should be fine anyways. But I do think, yep, the Cronulla Sharks should be able to take out the game against the Dolphins. And now we go to the main event of Magic Round, 4th versus 3rd. It is, of course, the Melbourne Storm up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Melbourne Storm last week are coming off a bye, but we previously did get the win in Anzac Day back against the Warriors. And South Sydney had a big win against the Brisbane Broncos last week. It is very close at the moment. South Sydney are just favourites. But thinking into it, I think South Sydney's momentum and how they've been playing at the moment, because the Storm so far have just been a bit odd. Like, the Storm are very good. Like, the Storm are 4th. I mean, they have to be a good team, but it's like, I don't think it's really like comparable with them and South Sydney. Like, it's odd. But I think just South Sydney's attack has just been firing. Campbell Graham is on career best form. Latrell Mitchell's starting to come back into the team in a big way. It's all working well for South Sydney at the moment, and I'm going to predict that they will beat the Storm at Magic Round, and South will continue their trying to prove that, like, yes, they are serious title contenders. And they're also going to get Jack Whiten. Now we go on to the first game on Sunday, and it is the West Tigers against the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Now, I need to state, obviously, yes, the Tigers did get the win last week against the Panthers. I saw a lot of people were complaining, saying it's like, oh, but it was in bad weather, and it's like, oh, that's why Penrith did win. But it's like, it was also bad weather for the Tigers. It's like, it's not a controversial thing. And obviously, the Dragons are coming off their loss against the Bulldogs at the end of the round, where the Dragons weren't that great either. I wouldn't say this is a spoon. Actually, I kind of would actually make a case of this being a bit of a spoon bowl at the moment. So it is a very, very interesting game to say the least. 17th versus 15th. But I've got a premonition. And the other prescription is Shoe of the Week. Obviously, 2 weeks ago, it did lose its 100% record, but it has backed up in spades with its prediction last week, which was South Sydney to beat the Broncos. And the shoe is telling me, whispering sweet nothings in my ear, but it was going to say, the West Tigers will beat the St. George Illawarra Dragons. The Tigers will go 2-0. Yes, that's going to happen. Now we go to Sunday, 4 p.m. of Magic Round, and we have the Sydney Roosters up against the North Queensland Cowboys. Two teams having completely different seasons. I think Roosters last week had a 14-0 win over the Warriors in a very wet and wild Mount Smart Stadium. It was a very good win for them, obviously, because it's hard enough trying to get a win over in New Zealand, but obviously in the wet weather, they did very well. The Cowboys I just have no idea. The Cowboys are just weird. Now, obviously, now they're coming off a big bollocking against the Sharks last week. It's just, I've got to tip the Roosters. It's weird to say. And I had the Cowboys before the season to be minor premiers. And finally, another saucy type of fixture to close out Magic Round. It is the Gold Coast Titans up against the Parramatta Eels. Now, the Gold Coast Titans are coming off a very good win against the Manly Seagulls, actually kind of proving their case that yes, they're going to make it into the top 8 this year. And Parramatta finally have actually gotten a very decent result against the Newcastle Knights, because the Newcastle Knights' favourite pastime is making mid-teams look good. It's weird to say. It's going to be an interesting game, to say the least, because obviously it's two teams that have aspirations of making the 8 and they want to, bounce up into it. The problem is I can't really say that the Eels beating the Knights is any kind of answers, because I do think the Titans are, an actual team. So it should be a very interesting game for them. I'm going to go say that I think the Titans actually should win this game. I think just all the momentum's going good. Players are playing very good football. Pereira, Rookie of the Year, Pereira is going to be this year. Absolute talent he is. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I just think the Titans are going to win. And also, Para. Simple as that. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans winning there. And that is going to be the end of my Magic Round predictions. What do you guys think will happen on the NRL's biggest weekend? Oh, I guarantee they'll use that tagline at some point. NRL, you know where my address is. I want to check every month. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all later.